Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. Standing up for this project because I just don't have enough room on the table. So today's going to be a little bit different. I need to put up a couple of shelves up in the studio. I'm downsizing the studio. You know, us artists, we like to hoard stuff. So I'm doing a lot of giveaways and stuff. So I'm downsizing, becoming more focused on what I want. I'm not going to go out and buy a bunch of shelves. I had these in storage for when I did a lot of conventions. I have no idea where these came from. I bought them from somebody local. I don't remember who. I don't even know if they're still in business, but I've had these for, oh good Lord, probably about 7 years. They're MDF shelves, but if you don't have it, it's just like you can buy this MDF at any home improvement store. You don't need to get all this fancy stuff. You can even use wrought iron, which is probably what I would have preferred. But the way the shelf is that it's cut out where it comes with a panel, you can change the artwork. And I'm just going to have Joe take a piece of oak, because I don't like the panel that came with it. I'm going to use a piece of oak, and then I'll do maybe some wood burning or something. But the purpose of this is to show you how to quickly paint and distress a shelf, hopefully under 30 minutes, not including drying time. So I just want to show you one that I've already prepared. So, and the reason being is that if you have something that's already in existence, you can easily change up the color. Now, I did paint this with the Decor Chalky finish paint, but what I use isn't the point. If you've got a shelf that you want to upcycle into something else, let's say you bought it at a secondhand store, if it's a very, very shiny finish, give it a light sanding with some sandpaper, and then to be safe, give it a couple of coats of gesso. Gesso's a primer, paint will stick to that. And then and also if you want to paint it a lot lighter color, gesso goes further than the actual paint, so you can do that, okay? So that's basically this. So I'm going to be doing some work on this one. But on something like this, you could actually just paint directly with the paint itself. So what I've got, the Chalky finish, and I've got Preservation, Treasure, Lace, and the gesso. I wanted to use Everlasting, but I don't have any. I ran out, so I'm going to try using some gesso mixed with the Chalky finish paint as well. And to varnish, because may go into where the shelf is going to go, it is going to be a bit more humid in the corner of the studio. So the jar of the Chalky finish soft touch varnish fell on the floor and it broke. So I'm going to be using the Americana Clear soft touch varnish instead. All right. Brushes, use what you have, but what I've got is for fast painting for the initial layer, I like using these large brushes. This is a gesso brush from Royal Brush. I've got a 1 inch, 3/4, and a 1/2 inch Aqualon brush for painting the smaller areas. And my favorite Majestic 1 inch oval wash. This is what I use for varnishing, only for varnishing. So put that way over there because I don't want it to touch any paint. And on the raw MDF, you don't need to prime it. And all that I was basically doing to get the initial color, I'm using a darker blue than what's there, is just get it on to distress it. It doesn't have to be perfect coverage because we're going to be putting another color on this. So it's better to do a light, even coat than a really thick, globby one. And you want to get relatively good coverage. Again, that is fine because we're going to be putting another color on top. But if you're painting something quite light and you don't want the white to turn into beige, make sure you cover up all the brown, or give it a coat of gesso first, then come in with the blue, and you can leave some areas like this with white. So you're just going to paint like that over everywhere. I always like finishing the back of my pieces. So you're going to do that. Okay, then you're going to let it dry. Put that aside. Hopefully it won't fall. And then, again, I use a darker blue for the other one because I ran out of this color. So I've got this. You can see how it's quite rough. I didn't even bother with the insides. Okay. quickly put that. And the drying time for when I did this one, the drying time was basically about half an hour. Now the actual painting itself and sand, the whole process takes about a half an hour. The drying time is what takes the longest. Then from here, what I want to do is I want to take some treasure, and I want to use a smaller brush. Okay. And then from this, I'm going to make sure your table's clean. And I'm just going to put some spots like this. Not covering everything. I'll thin that down with a little bit of water. And what this is going to do is just when I put the lighter color on top, because the shelf is basically going to be white. I like the farm style, but I don't want anything too dark. And I would let each piece dry, not fuss with it like I am. When you put the white on top, the white is what's going to be the important piece and the important coverage. And then you're going to sand, so you don't want to make it too thick. But this stuff here, because we're putting white on top, it doesn't matter. Okay, so just pop that on there. And same inside, get some color in there. And I'm using my Aqualon brushes that are a bit worn out. I'm not using my good like I've got many Aqualon brushes, but I'm not using the ones that are used for detail work. And hopefully my head didn't get in the way there. Okay, so just some paint like that. Cover that up. And then for the smaller areas, you go with a smaller brush. And how you apply this, I put some dark in there, and then where it's unpainted, I'll put some of the light color in there. This is the part that takes the longest. But again, how much paint you put on is up to you. But my goal is to basically have this done in under 30 minutes because I don't like spending a lot of time doing this type of stuff. And as well, paint will take longer to apply onto unprimed surfaces than primed surfaces. So where the MDF is, it's just going to suck up the paint. So if you've got the extra time, a coat of gesso will always be nice. Oh, there goes Mia. Okay, I better go see what she's doing. Back in a sec. Well, I continued painting. Wasn't that poor UPS guy? Mia just does not like him. I don't know why. Stranger danger. So I just kept painting this because it's the same. There's nothing unique about it, but just to show you that it's quite the hot mess that when painting this. And this is the most difficult part, is just to get inside all the nooks and crannies. So it might take, a little bit longer than half an hour, depending on the complexity. I mean, this is pretty complex, but I would have preferred actually just the shelf, the back, and wrought iron. That's would have been nice. But so just, nice and rough like this. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it this way. I'm going to let it completely dry. So when we did the planter outside, and I posted lots of pictures on my blog on that, how I distressed that one. This part here, because we have to put another coat of paint and do sanding, this I want to let dry at least an hour. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back, show you how I'm going to apply the paint, and then basically finish the whole thing. And then the sanding process I'll show completely on camera. Okay, so nothing fancy, really messy, junky looking. Let it dry, and then we'll go from there. All right, so this is all dried now. It took about an hour. And so what I want to do now is basically add the light color. So if you find that your piece, let's say you're working on like a natural wood, pine or whatever, when you put paint on it, if it's not sealed, the grain will raise. Just give it a light sanding, and you can use, okay, oh, there it is, 220 grit sandpaper, and just lightly sand it before painting. So what I want to do is I'm going to take the gesso, and I want to see what I can get here. And there's no way that I'm going to be able to make I don't want to make a big pile of paint because I want to make just enough to put onto here. And all I want to do now, okay, I'm going to stand up again, is just, now this way I'm being very specific as to the direction. Lighter coat is better. So coming in here, following the direction. So I don't want to go across, I want to go up and down. Really is to use whatever method you want, and then I'll come in with the smaller brush to go inside, making sure I get rid of the ridges of paint immediately. And this one here I can go across. You don't want to put the paint on too thick or it'll just be harder to sand. Now I'm going to back up a bit. I've got, the light is really bright on this. When I say follow the direction of the grain in that, it's if you're using natural wood. This is MDF. There is no natural grain. I'm just basically following the curves of this. I'm going to adjust the lighting a bit. Hang on a sec. Here we go. Hopefully it's not so bright now. Yeah, so if you're working with natural wood, then you want to paint in the direction. But I'm just basically using the direction of the MDF. Let me try that again. The paint string strokes, my mouth is rented. It's so hot right now. The direction that I'm painting is basically the direction I'm going to be sanding. You can see I'm being pretty rough, not being particular. Because I know on the corners here I'm going to have that quite rough looking. And pick up a little bit of water. I'm also in a bit of a hurry because Joe took me out so I can try to get this done. She's been barking all day and we're under a thunderstorm watch right now, and that may be why. Okay, so this isn't white, it's not cream, it's kind of in between. And then when that's dry, I'll come in with a little bit more of that color. I like that. It's a bit too much blue for me though. So I'll just come in, a little bit more paint, not too thick. What you don't want to do is put it on like that or even like that. I don't know if you can even see that. So you want to spread it out. Okay, so I'm going to thin that out. And I'm painting the back. You don't have to. I'm going to anyways. So I'm just going to continue on painting this. It's a little bit awkward because it's so big and the camera is so close, but I'm going to continue on doing this and I'll let it dry, and then when we come back I'll let it dry. With the time it is right now, I'll likely just leave it until tomorrow and do the sanding tomorrow so that I can open the windows. All right, so just basically covering, dry brushing as much as I can, only loading when I've run out of paint. And going from there. If I find that this is dried much faster than I expected, then I'll try to do the sanding tonight. All right, so I'll be back in a bit. All right, so it's nice and dry now. You can see how rough it looks, and you know, it's got some interesting colors to it. Stuff's uneven. What I did find though is some of the paint kind of beat it up. It's where it was a little bit too thin, so it's got some bumps. Not a big deal. So you need some sandpaper. Now, depending on where you buy your sandpaper, you can get sandpaper at the dollar store, but if it's just a practice piece, that's fine. But if you're, doing some really nice pieces, good quality sandpaper isn't that expensive. But there's fine and super fine. It goes from like rough, medium, fine, and the rougher it is, the lower the number, and it's almost like sand glued to like sand glued to paper, where this stuff is really fine. So I did do some testing on the other side, that I found that 180 is pretty good to start. Then you can finish it with a 220 or something even higher. So what I like to do, and it's going to be a little bit noisy, is where the pieces are really rough, I'll just start on the edges And I want to, when I do my sanding, like around the corners is fine, because what I'm doing is I'm just dressing and removing the outer edge of paint. But when I'm flat pieces, I'm working only in with an imaginary grain line. So this way I would just work down like this. And I'm not removing everything. I'm being very selective. So let's say here I'm going to remove a bit of the edge. And there's a piece of dried paint right here. So I'll see if I can get rid of that. And it may not come off, so that's fine. Now see all that dust? So on camera, I don't wear a mask because then all you hear is blah, 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 blah. When I do sanding, I like to wear a mask. I like to wear a mask like this, and in 37-degree temperatures with the humidity, these are very uncomfortable. So you do sanding outside, but this helps you. I don't inhale the dust. Okay. One thing you do not blow the dust. I know it sounds basic and, oh God, well, yeah, we all know that. Yet you don't blow the dust. I see people who are experienced in sanding, especially at, conventions and trade shows and that. And, that's probably one of the most dangerous things to do because you're inhaling that. You can get tack cloths. Tack cloths can be expensive. I just like using either a damp paper towel, in an emergency, a baby wipe. And the baby wipes I'm using don't have any stuff in them, but you have to let it dry before going back to sanding. Okay, so I'll move on to another area, and how you want it to look is completely up to you. Do you want to distress it like a lot or just a little? Then this top part I'll go across this way. I like that where we've got the blue, then a little bit of the white. And if I want to get something really fine, I can fold the sandpaper and work down this way. I have to stop for a sec. Somebody came in the room. Where was I? Oh yeah, so you can take a corner, you fold it in half, and I can just create some lines like that. What I want to try to do is I want to try to make them straight. Whether or not that's your preference, that's up to you. I love that. Absolutely love that. Not a fan of that. There we go. Gone. Let's break up that circle. And because I have all the different colors between the dark blue and the teal color, preservation and treasure, I'm going to have different types of the blue. So this is the dark one, and I've got some of the light color here. Once you've got the hard edges, like most of the work done, so this is your workhorse sandpaper, then you can go to a finer sandpaper. I know that I did some testing on the other side. I was able to do it with a 220. The 180 though makes more dust. I'll just show you the other side. See, I started with big thing of paint on there, so again, do this as much as you want, and it's all based on your own personal style. I don't want this pure white. And on the back too, the back is just more to remove any lumps and bumps. And I'm not giving this away or selling it or anything. This is mine, so I'm not worried about the back. Then the front, again, is all up to what you want. So you get the basic idea. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish this off camera, finish more sanding. Then I'm going to use my baby wipe everything down, clean everything up, and then we'll get ready for varnishing. All right, so all finished. It's distressed to the point where I'm pretty happy with it. Now to varnish. So before, what I did is I just wiped everything down with the baby wipe, or you can use damp paper towel, and you got to let it dry. So then I'm going to use the Duraclear Soft Touch varnish, only because I dropped and broke the jar of the Decor Decor one. This is fine though. And I'm going to use my 1-inch Majestic Oval Wash, which is, I only use this specific brush for varnishing. When I mean this specific brush is that I have many of these brushes, but this specific one I have in a container of my varnishing brushes. And always follow the directions on the product label, but this one's pretty simple, light even coat, and because it's a soft dust, so it's not going to be shiny, it's going to feel velvety. And with the oval brush, I find I can get rid of a lot of the ridges, and it takes a bit of practice when varnishing. I always use a dry brush, and this brush is super soft. And any excess, if I put a bit too much, I'll just put it someplace else. So make sure you feather out so you don't have any ridges. Now, one benefit of working in this humidity is that it will take a little bit longer to dry, but it also means I have a bit more open time. And when varnishing, if you have something that you can cover it with so the dust doesn't settle, that's always ideal. Especially just after finishing sanding. Let the dust settle. And if you've got one of those dust remover gizmos, then that's a good thing too. Okay, so I'm just going to continue on varnishing, and then when we come back, we'll see what it looks like all finished. Oh, and before I forget, when you're finished varnishing, don't forget to really wash your brush really, really well. You don't want the varnish sticking in your brush. There we go. Now, you probably can't even tell the difference. I just love the feel of this. Again, depending, it's all up to your style of how you want to do the distressing, the colors. A good combination is to use something dark on the bottom, light on the top, or light on the bottom, dark on the top, completely up to you. And the varnish is, again, completely up to you. I stuck with the soft touch varnish only because I worked with chalky finish paints. Well, there's no point in putting a gloss varnish on chalky finished paints. What's the point? Just use regular acrylic paint. So one thing I didn't do all inside here yet because that's going to take a long time. Now, when you're working with this, now for me, where I think I'm going to be putting this, I changed my mind. I think I might actually put this in the kitchen where I want to put some 2 herb pots on here. And then you have to look at, okay, well, if it's going to be in a humid area, if you're going to put a shelf over a sink, then you might want to use something that's more of an outdoor varnish. But if it's going to just go in the bedroom and that, varnish just helps protect it and, just protect it. I've got stuff in here that I didn't even varnish, and it's, going on 15 years and it's fine. So, use your best judgment. There you go. So I really like this. Now it's just a matter of a cutout for this. I have an idea what I'm going to do with the other one is to do something very similar. And for my daughter's homestead farm, I'm going to make a sign, Twin Pines, and surprise her with that for Christmas. And she's not on YouTube, so I know she's not going to see this, so that's fine. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I'd love to hear your comments of, have you ever distressed any of your own furniture, any of your own home decor? Share in the comments below and let me know what you've done. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That way you're not going to miss a thing. Alrighty? So until I see you in my next video, stay inspired.